first straw poll for the 2012 presidential election will be conducted this weekend in Washington, D.C. at the Conservative Values Voter Summit, which began today. In our fourth story on the countdown, former Governor Sarah Palin will not attend. Former Miss California Carrie Prejean is attending. And an assortment of GOP nominee wannabes warmed up their anti-Obama sales pitch. One of today's featured speakers at the summit in Washington, D.C., former governor and current talk show host Mike Huckabee. He offered a few examples of present-day conservative obsessions.
It is at times a country that is almost difficult to recognize. We have become the land of czars, clunker cars, and Hollywood stars. But unfortunately, it's also become a place where we've lost any semblance of those promises of transparency and accountability.
Congressman Mike Pence went after the czars as well, and he also tossed out some classic red meat.
And the American people will not stand for government-run insurance that uses taxpayer money to fund abortions in this country. Washington, D.C. must become a no-czar zone, starting here and starting now.
Of course, the 5 health bills in the Congress currently written would not fund abortions. Another popular speaker today was Carrie Prejean, who spent a great deal of time reliving that fateful night when a pageant judge dared to ask her how she felt about gay marriage.
I tried to stand there and look pretty, but in my head, I could not believe that they were asking that question at Miss USA. I thought that it was extremely inappropriate for that venue.
Former liberal Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney is scheduled to deliver remarks tomorrow. And on Sunday, the results of the infamous straw poll will be released. Some of the possible contenders, Romney, Huckabee, Pence, and former Pennsylvania Senator Rick Santorum, along with former House Speaker, the thrice-married and twice-divorced Newt Gingrich, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty, and former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin, all still on their first marriages. Let's bring in the founder and publisher of the Daily Kos and author of Taking on the System, Markos Moulitsas. Good evening, Mr. Markos. Great to have you with us.
Thank you. Happy Friday, Lawrence.
Now, you know, the titles of some of these sessions, I know you've been paying close attention to this one. The titles are pretty catchy. Speechless, Silencing the Christians. Thugocracy, Fighting the Vast Left-Wing Conspiracy was another. They also have Activism and Conservatism, Fit to a T. Party, in parentheses. There was even one called The New Masculinity because, quote, feminism has wreaked havoc on marriage, women, children, and men. Now, that's pretty much sounds like a complete roundup of the values that they'll be exploring there this weekend, doesn't it?
Well, they're definitely not going to have any values about intellectual consistency because they didn't seem to care when George Bush had more czars than Barack Obama. And they sure aren't going to talk about honesty and telling the truth in politics because between claiming that Obama wasn't born in the United States and claiming that Obama wants to kill your grandmother and claiming that these mythical bills have abortion language in them, clearly they've abandoned that sort of notion of truth and integrity a long time ago.
Now, if what they're looking for is the best rhymer, clearly Mike Huckabee's going to win this straw poll just going away, isn't he? I mean, who is the king of this group? It seems to me if you were looking at them from the perspective of these very, you know, conservative family values types, Huckabee's their guy, isn't he?
He's always been their guy. The problem with Huckabee is that he's not very palatable to the Wall Street Republicans, the guys who pretty much truly call the shots in the Republican Party, and they did a fantastic job of taking him out when he seemed to be the front runner post-Iowa in 2008. And I think they still make him nervous because they see him as a fiscal liberal. This is a guy who supported college scholarships to children of undocumented immigrants, which of course, you know, anything that helps anybody, especially those brown people, is something that is completely unacceptable to the Republican Party these days.
Now, of course, there was a health care panel today, maybe the first one they've ever had at a values summit, and Michelle Bachmann, Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, championed the idea of putting fewer restraints, fewer regulations on health insurance companies. Now she seems, I don't know, maybe I don't get the values thing there, but she seems to me to be straying even farther away from the what would Jesus do approach to health care, isn't she?
When I was growing up, going to Sunday school, I learned that Jesus would help the sick, the poor, the needy. He didn't care. He helped them all. But apparently, that was liberal propaganda, because the conservative Jesus, he asked if they had an insurance card. They couldn't afford insurance. He turned them down. And when leprosy was considered a pre-existing condition, well, those guys were out of luck.
Now, the big no-show, of course, is former Governor Sarah Palin. What significance should we draw from this? I thought she quit the governorship so she'd have time to attend important events like this. And if we're looking at this for hints of who the next presidential candidate is, doesn't it mean skipping something like this when all of the possible candidates for president are going? Doesn't it indicate she's probably not actually going to run for president next time?
Well, the thing to note about Sarah Palin is that she is extremely, extremely lazy. She was elected governor of Alaska and, of course, decided that was too much work, so she quit that. She was nominated to be the vice president of the Republican Party. She couldn't be bothered to prepare and study for the job. And she couldn't even be bothered to, obviously, take care of her own children, supervise her children. So she's a lazy person. I think she figures she has the name recognition. People know who she is. And a couple of years from now, she can wink at an audience and it'll all fall apart in love with her again. But if she doesn't watch out, that Carrie Prejean could be winking at their audience too, and she'll have some real competition.
And if Carrie learns how to rhyme, Huckabee's in trouble.
Absolutely.
Markos Moulitsas, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.